Hi, everybody. I'm Dan Egan, and joining me here at the 2014 APS National Team Racing College Championships is Nick Ewenson and John Pierce. How are we doing today, boys?
Doing great. Not bad.
It's nice to be here live from St. Mary's College. What a beautiful campus and what a great sailing venue, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, this place is built for it. You know, they have a good history with team racing, winning 5 national championships, I believe, here. And so they really get behind it. We got a bunch of great alumni here who've done it themselves and are now back helping run it here. And, yeah, we're all set up for a great event.
It's really exciting to see all the different colleges from across the country here, and they're all here, John.
They sure are. Yeah, for the first time at this regatta, there's 16 teams, so that's up from 14 in past years, and that really reflects the growth of team racing within college sailing. And, you know, I always say that there's 6 different national championships in college sailing competition, but the team race championship is the one that the coaches and the players want to win the most. So the 16 teams that are here, they are passionate, they are fired up, and we got off to a great start this morning with racing underway in great conditions.
Of course, I'm new to team racing. I've been to one event. I was at the Houston event a few years back, and for me it was like really intense to see just how many races they're doing. Explain the format for us, Nick.
So we're going to start with the opening round robin. So all 16 teams are going to sail against each other. And then from there, we break it down. The top 8 teams move on to an Elite 8. And then from there, the 8 gets chopped down to a Final 4, all, of course, weather permitting. And all scores carry. So, you know, how you're doing right now totally matters.
I heard you talking earlier on the pre-show, John, that Stanford lost 2 races, and that could show up to hurt them later on.
It sure could. I mean, every win and loss is huge at this point. Doesn't matter to what team you're racing against. And, you know, I think the Stanford team, that may have been a little bit of a wake-up call, and it's certainly not the end of the world. They could still absolutely win the championship. But, you know, keeping in mind that every race really counts out here is really important for these teams.
I mean, just in the prelims alone, we have over 150 races.
120.
120 races. That's an amazing amount of races. How is it, Nick, that 2 races early on can hurt you down the road?
Well, just because everything matters, and these teams are so close. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if the winner of this regatta ends up having a handful of losses. But it's the teams that can take a loss, go through what Stanford just went through, and bounce back from it and get on a run. It's a very streaky game. Wins can come after wins, and losses can come after losses. You want to keep that momentum rolling.
Of course, the last 4 days we were up in Annapolis at the 2014 Sperry Topsiders Women National Championships, where we were really hoping for the wind that we have here today. We've got some nice gusty wind, and the conditions look pretty amazing, John.
Yeah, the conditions look awesome. You know, right now the wind is gusting through here at probably over 10 or 12 knots. You know, it will be up and down. This venue is fairly protected on the St. Mary's River. I believe this is called Horseshoe Bend. Is that right, Nick?
That's right.
Yep. So it's a really cool venue for team racing, though, because it is a little bit shifty and puffy, and you'll see teams shearing off in lifting puffs that'll create some unbalanced pairs across the race course. And so even if the race looks locked up after the first upwind, a lot can happen on the downwind and the next upwind. And I think the teams really like competing here.
So we've got here early this morning. We're set up, and we have a little video to show you just on the setup this morning, the team race, and we're going to go to that now. Hi, and welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that little video. As you can see, we're still working out the kinks of the live stream, but we're excited to be here for the next 3 days. John, we're here for the next 3 days?
Yes, yeah, 2.5 days. You know, the first day or two will probably be mostly this preliminary round robin, followed by the top round of 8, round of top 8, and then we'll have the final 4 at the very end of the regatta. Looks like today's breeze is going to be awesome. Tomorrow the wind should be pretty light, so it might be a slower day. And then Monday, Championship Monday, we should probably start calling it. Championship Monday will be, looks like a nice sea breeze southerly, so that's going to be pretty awesome. What's up, Nick?
Hey.
You know a thing or two about the sea breeze southerly here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's going to be an awesome 3 days. I think the culmination of it on Monday is going to be one of the best days of recent memory for college sailing.
Of course, everything in the next few days is building up to championship Monday, and the weather looks amazing. Tell me about some of the characteristics of the sea breeze. Came in pretty early this morning, Nick.
Well, right now we actually have, it's not quite a sea breeze, so the sea breeze is going to come from the opposite direction we have. But right now we just have that northern gradient after a front goes through, and it's definitely a tricky condition. The front was pretty strong, so we have a pretty stiff breeze, but the direction is going to make for some really tricky sailing, some large shifts. So it's going to be tricky for teams to keep things balanced and keep control on their opponents while conditions are changing around them.
Of course, we've already seen some directional change. They moved the finish line earlier.
Yeah, they moved the course left a little bit. We had one or two races that were sort of marginally, maybe didn't have any tacks on the last beat type thing because of that wind shift. But I think it's good that the forecast is varied and the wind direction is varied, because a day like today is really going to test the teams in their teamwork and making sure they can keep their plays balanced and keep it together all the way around the race course. Tomorrow could be more of a light air, boat speed and boat handling day, and being a little bit more tricky thinking on the fly. And then I think Championship Monday, from the sounds of it, will be a pretty steady breeze, and it's going to be an emphasis on speed and execution.
And of course, with all these teams here, we're going to make some predictions and play the spread. So if you want to get out there on Vegas and make some money on this college championship, we're going to talk about some predictions. What do you got, Nick?
Well, teams are, I don't know if I'm going to make predictions, but teams I'm going to look out for to have a great showing. Certainly the home team, St. Mary's, pretty seasoned team. They've been in the hunt. They're almost always in the Final Four. Great group of alumni that comes back and trains against them. I know they had a Hinman winning team back just a couple weeks ago. Sparring against them, so they're going to be sharp, and they're led by Fletcher Sims and John Wallace, and yeah, they're a really solid team. Josh Greenslade rounds them out, and they're going to be solid in all conditions, and they're already off to a great start with 3 wins, or undefeated anyway.
So the hometown team looking good here at St. Mary's. John, what are you thinking?
Well, it's going to be really tight down the stretch. There's no doubt about that. Certainly it'll be hard to predict who's going to even make the Final Four. But 2 teams I'm looking at, Roger Williams, I think they won the New England Conference Championship. That's a huge deal. New England is probably the most competitive of the championship of the conferences. And they didn't qualify for the women's or co-ed championship. And so that's obviously not great for their team. I'm sure they wish they qualified for those regattas, but it means that their focus has been solely on team racing for the last month, basically. And they are coached by 2 great team racers, Amanda Callahan, with the assistance of Colin Merrick. So they're going to be a team to watch. My other team to watch is Georgetown, just because they're perpetually strong in team racing, and they've gotten off to a great start. I believe they are also undefeated so far, so certainly right there with St. Mary's at this point.
And they sailed here a lot as well. They're going to know this course quite well.
Yeah.
And how about some spoilers? We got some teams that are going to come in and maybe disrupt some of this?
I hope so.
Sure, yeah. We've already seen some great action from the University of Michigan Wolverines. They've given a couple teams a couple scares, and they seemed like they put a lot of effort in the team racing this year, coming out east for multiple regattas. And even though they didn't get great results, they're showing that they have some experience, and they've scared some national powerhouses like College of Charleston and a couple other teams, giving them really good races.
Absolutely. I think for my spoiler, I'm going to go with the Santa Barbara Gauchos, UCSB. They have a really young team, very fast sailors who have been very successful in junior sailing, and they're still early on in their college sailing careers, and they're coming from the Pacific Coast Conference, which is a little more spread out, and they may not have as much access to the top-level competition as the East Coast teams do, but they're fast. And I would predict that they're going to have a couple of breakaways during this regatta where they surprise a top team right off the line and stretch out to a 1-2 and win it coast to coast. So be careful of those Gauchos.
Of course, up in Annapolis this past weekend, Hobart really sort of made their name known. They got into the finals and they held their own pretty well. Are we going to have a real dark horse here anywhere that might somebody we're not really thinking about?
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, Wisconsin, I always like their team, Go Wisco. They got great team spirit. They're a fast team. But they may have some of the same issues where they don't get as much access to top-level team racing in their conference, so they have to travel a lot of distance to get to a top team race regatta. But I'd love to see them pick up a couple of good wins.
There's going to be one team that doesn't make it into the Elite Eight. That's going to be there'll be a couple teams that don't make it into the Elite Eight. They're going to be really disappointed. It's just the depth in the team racing scene and college sailing is pretty robust, and it's going to be tough racing out there.
So for the parents out there watching, thanks for tuning in. If you're not a sailor, what would you say the thing to know about team racing? What's the one thing you really need to know?
I mean, I guess the basics is, it's a 3-on-3 team race, so 3 boats from each team facing off around the race course, and the team that crosses the finish line with a total of 10 points between the 3 boats or less is going to win the race. So you're always looking for a combination, whether it's a 2-3-5, that would be 10 points, that's a winning combo, a 1-4-5, also winning. But ideally, you want to get a 1-2 or a 1-2-3 and just blow them out of the water. Nick and I are going to be throwing around a lot of terminology about the combinations, but mostly you want to know that it's a full team sport. All 3 boats are working together for the win, and you can absolutely attack your opponents with your boat, and you'll see contact. We're going to see fouls. We're going to see umpires involved, so it's aggressive, and it can get kind of gnarly.
And let's talk just a little bit about the umpiring. Nick, tell me how the umpiring works. There's 1 boat per race, per heat, following the 2 teams around the course?
We'll actually have 3, we're lucky enough to have 3 umpire boats per race. Wow. And each umpire boat will have 2 umpires in them each, and each motorboat follows 1 boat around. So any confrontation that boat comes into, the umpires are going to be calling those situations as they develop. So they're constantly speaking out loud to each other and just talking about the facts that they think they're seeing.